Are we now live?
We are.
Great. Hello, I'm Amberly McAteer. I'm a social media editor here at the Globe and also Canada Q&A editor. So for the last 6 months, readers have been asking us questions, and we thought we'd spice it up a little and have you connect live with David Walmsley, our editor-in-chief.
Hello, everyone. Looking forward to the session.
So a question that we get often on Canada Q&A is, what do you do every day?
No 2 days are the same. I suppose the job is 2 or 3 things. I've got to do the journalism. I've also got to be a public face for the organization, often meeting with various groups who are interested in the Globe and Mail, want to tell their stories. And the old days of a day beginning and a day ending, they've gone. There's no deadline, which means every day is a deadline that is just continuous. But as long as you're in it for the right reasons, you like that sort of enthusiastic approach, it's a great job.
So what are your hours-ish? What time do you get in the morning? When do you roll out of here?
I'm in the office for around 9, but I start the morning around 6 in the morning, reading the world's news, looking at various internal emails, and shut down around 11:30 at night Eastern, which is after we've closed the first edition of the paper. And if the night is moving well, then that's it done. And if it's not going so well, then the night continues. But obviously we're staffing the web through the night, and calls can come if the stories are big.
I should also mention that we've got Patrick Dell here, one of our videographers.
Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Patrick.
Hello.
So if you've got questions, are you on selfie cam?
Here I am on selfie cam.
There you
Beautiful.
So he's behind the camera, and if you've got questions, shoot, and he'll relay them to David and I. So another question we get frequently is, how do editorials get written? It's by the Globe and Mail, but there's no byline on them. So people often ask, who is that?
Yeah, it's one of the great. I think there's a misunderstanding. The industry as a whole hasn't done a great job in explaining the notion of editorials. So editorials at the outset, they are the soul of the newspaper. That is the belief of the newspaper. And people say, well, why does a newspaper that does news also then have a position, an opinion on certain things? And the view of the Globe is that the editorials are our example of putting skin in the game, of showing that we stand for something in society, and there are certain positions that the paper as an institution in society believe very strongly. So the process is we have an editorial board. As the editor-in-chief, I'm in charge of that board, and we have a team of people who work together to debate through the day or through the week certain issues that have come up either through the news or independent of the news. Perhaps the news has missed them. And the board will sit and discuss the various ideas. It's a good debate. And at the end of it, we come up with a conclusion, and we print them every day. And on Saturdays, we try and go along with a longer piece, more substantial piece, that give people the weekend to have a read and a debate and to respond to.
I got a question.
All right.
A weird question, Emily.
Patrick Dell has a question.
From one of the people watching.
Great.
What's your opinion on legalizing cannabis?
What's your opinion on legalizing cannabis, David Walmsley?
I think I'm with the majority in society on that one, and that is that it's a non-prosecutable offence at this point, and that barn door has opened and the horse has galloped away. So carry on. You have my permission.
Another one as well, Emily.
And another.
How has social media changed the print media landscape?
How has social media changed the print media landscape? That's a great question.
It's really neat. The idea of digi and print used to be considered to be adversarial, and I think we've got to a point now where we really have a much better sense that print is not supposed to be the most up-to-date medium. It is one of the platforms we have, but as we see wearables coming increasingly into the fore, watches, glasses, mirrors, and interactivity that way, you're going to see different treatments, and people, I think, gravitate towards different types of platform based on what it is they're looking for. But the print role is one that's contextual, one that's long form. I think the industry got things wrong. It used to think that it was the permanent form, and in actual fact, the permanent form is the web, or digi and the digi environment. You can search for the material, the long tail of stories. It's all there. So it's gone from being an adversarial approach of them or us to being much more a complement, where you're putting together a whole range of platforms, and you can pick and choose which one suits you.
And how does information that or breaking news on social media infiltrate its way into the newspaper?
The immediacy of Digi takes us to a world that we never had before. We didn't have radio. We didn't have the hourly news. We didn't have the opportunity to bring people up to date with the news that we had. So social is the first place it goes, and then it bleeds very easily into desktop, onto the phone and such like. Then you have to build it. So if you take an example like last Friday, when you've got 3 different terrorist attacks taking place in 3 different continents, how do you then translate that in terms of both images, videos and text on digital, and translate that also then into print at the end of the day? So for example, I mean, this is last Saturday's print paper. The biggest story of the day, of course, was the 3 attacks in 3 continents. We happily put it just above the fold as a small piece here because the news has been out there all day, right. But there's still an importance for people to get a sense. You don't ignore it, but it doesn't have to be the emphasis. What we instead did was we offered up a project that we've been working on for many months, looking at, for once, a very positive story. It deals with Thunder Bay and an education system to help with Aboriginal education on the inside. A focus combined with the story of Canada and a family who have arrived from Afghanistan in 2004 and the last 11 years of their story. So between all of those, I think you're getting a much wider array than just the straight news of the terrible tragedies that happen far too often.
So speaking of social media, on Facebook we put this this Periscope out on Facebook, and we asked, what would you like to ask David? A lot of people wondered about some contentious columns lately, one being Cahal Kelly and his piece on Edmonton and the Women's World Cup, as well as the recent travel column sort of discouraging Canadians from wearing our flag when they travel. There is, as part of my job, I really like seeing that immediate response to articles that we print, but people wonder, why would Canada's national newspaper print columns like that?
So contentious is often what you'll find with opinions. So we're not there to be boring, we're not there to conform, we're there to allow the complete range of opinions that people may have. So Cahal Kelly, he went to Edmonton. He arrived in Edmonton and very quickly concluded that Edmonton was not the place that the Women's World Cup should be one of the co-hosted cities for. Is that the view of the Globe and Mail? Absolutely not. Do I personally disagree with what he wrote? Absolutely. Do I defend the right for him to write that because that's his view? I do as well. So we hire people to write intelligent, honestly held views. For Cahal to write that, that's what we hire him for. And we don't want to denude that sort of opinion piece. I think it was the Edmonton mayor had the best response, though, of them all, where Mr. Iverson, he tweeted out, thank you very much for that. You've just got us to the 50,000 mark. In other words, the stadium reached capacity, and it was the largest, at that time, the largest soccer audience in any Canadian field. So that was a good example. Again, on the Canadian flags and identifying yourself, it's travel opinion. A lot of people are cross with that because of the sense of a shame or why should we hide our heritage. And that debate, totally responsible, reasonable response, but again, that is opinion. And I think what's very important is that as you mark the work you do, both in social media, you differentiate between what's news, what's opinion and comment, and then to take it back to the original question of an editorial, just because someone writes that or it appears in the Globe and Mail under their own column, that doesn't mean that's the Globe and Mail saying it, but it does say that we're part of a broader church that allows for a whole range of opinions to be printed and to be supported and broadcast around the social media environment.
That's great. That's why I love my job on social media. There's so much conversation, and just as many people, I think, that were cranky about the Canadian flag piece also defended why, you know, we're basically just saying we're not American. And that was an interesting perspective, and I think we, you know, that's what we're here for, is to foster debate. Speaking of debate, a question came in about the federal election and why we chose Calgary for the debate.
Yeah, so we're hosting one of the federal election debates in September in Calgary. And what we discovered in our research, we think it's only the second time in the history of this country that a federal election debate will have been held west of Toronto. Now, there has been a saying for many, many decades, the West wants in. Well, I think this is about the rest of Canada or the electoral system not necessarily paying enough attention to what is a third of the population. So when we go to Calgary to host it, it's done with a very clear intent that there are stories far beyond what some would say are this Eastern media establishment. But in addition, there's something very important, I think, where if one looks at the story of the year has been Alberta, be that economic and the probably structural change to oil prices, or be it politically and the election of an NDP premier in Notley to the province. We have both Mulcair and Harper agreeing to the debate, and I think it's going to be fabulously relevant and also massively refreshing to get it to a place that it should have had before.
Wonderful.
I have a question from Periscope. Some people seem to think we're not watching the comments, but we are. But it's
We are watching the comments.
This is a very open-ended question, but what is the future of the Globe and Mail?
Wow. That is broad. So a reader asked on Periscope, pardon me, what is the future of the Globe and Mail?
The future is very bright. I think that the people in the business, people ask these questions, I think, because of the sense, the media industry, the landscape is challenging. What it actually tells us is that because it is so challenging, only the people who work in the business are prepared for the fight. So they self-select, they're determined, they're ambitious, they're committed. I have all the talent I could want. I have all the resources that I need. I think that the opportunities that we offer, there's one, and this is a word that's banned in journalism schools, and that's the word unique. It is very consistent, is my experience in the 15 months I've been in the job, that the number one question that is asked of me is, will you please be involved in society? There is this tremendous desire to see the Globe and Mail succeed, and with that we need to pony up and provide both intellectual capital and offer what I think, to be honest, has been our single biggest advantage since we were created, and that is to be a forum, the national town hall for ideas and an exchange of those ideas. Very few places can offer that elsewhere, particularly for those who perhaps look at, say, the electoral system and they go, well, I'm not going to vote for middle-aged white guys to go off into an institution in a city that I don't necessarily have to visit. We offer that exchange every day, and I think that's something that I feel very responsible for.
That is the future.
Yes, we have
We've seen the future. Right.
It's beautiful.
we have a less serious question. Do you like hockey?
Do you like hockey?
I love hockey, yes. Yeah.
What's your team?
It's the Leafs. Yeah, sorry, the rest of the country. Sorry, Edmonton.
Have you always loved hockey? Always loved the Leafs?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. My little guy plays the game, and I'm fascinated, in particular, by defense. I think they read the game, and the fastest game in the world, and they read the game like no one else. If you could actually take the skill of hockey players and translate it to some ball games, such as soccer, you would see, I think, a real class act. Alec Ferguson talks about this, actually, as he managed Manchester United, about the need to provide a better understanding of how hockey actually can be translated to other sports as well. So I love the gladiatorial aspect of it, yeah.
Another question. How does the Globe influence the world media?
So we have another question. How does the Globe influence other world media?
I think you see that the best examples of that when you're dealing with very significant news. So if you look at the assault on Parliament Hill, it was clear that our traffic hit record numbers, and that was because we were seen by the international audience as the go-to place when it came to Canadian news. So I think those stats reflect both the sense of our relevancy, but also if you go to the foreign team that we have, when they're out and about, they have got such a following. If you take Mark McKinnon in Ukraine, for example, he literally wrote the book on what was going to happen in Ukraine about 7 or 8 years ago. He was there, he reported it very deeply, and the team we have right across the world in all of our bureaus, they stand on their own 2 feet in terms of competing against anyone else from any other market. And the Globe, certainly when you arrive on a foreign story and you say you're from the Globe and Mail, it opens doors.
That's great. So if you're just joining us, we've got David Walmsley here.
Hello.
David Walmsley, I'm Amberly McAteer, and we're taking your questions live on Periscope.
A question for David is, where did you grow up?
So David Walmsley, where did you grow up?
I grew up on the north coast of Ireland. My mother's from Montreal, and she's an Anglo, but I've had citizenship forever and traveled everywhere, extensive family in Canada, and I moved here in 1998.
Full time. Some people are asking about the election. I want to ask you to make a call on who you think will win, but what do you think the election campaign will be like?
So we've got a question,
Questions.
few questions about the federal election. A, who do you think's going to win?
I was going to ask David that.
Ish. We can ask him,
Sure.
see what he says.
Sure.
And also, what do we think the federal election campaign is going to be like?
So in terms of who's going to win, I'll put it down to the safer answer, which is that, honestly, I think we're in the most clear-cut choice of a campaign we've seen in a generation, maybe even longer than that. The opportunities are there for all three parties. Clearly, the polling is showing that. There is, a conservative government that's been in power for a long time, so they have both opportunities and struggles with that. You have Liberals who have not been in power and have got a small parliamentary status and a new leader, and they have positives and negatives. And you've got Mulcair, who seems to be struggling with the national economy question, but also has positives in terms of being the official opposition. So I would say that the human endeavour, which is the 5-week, 6-week, 10-week campaign, depending on when the campaign actually begins, is going to be probably more intense than anyone under 35 has ever seen before. And I think it is really unclear, to be honest. I think anyone who says they know the answer has a bias and is probably a card-carrying member of a party, and I am not.
So we have a question about the Globe's paywall, one of many that come in on Canada Q&A about our paywall, and also if we're thinking about moving toward a micropayment model where people would pay for per article readership.
Yeah, it's a really neat idea. The Winnipeg Free Press, I think, is the first in Canada to do it. It's a revenue decision, so it's outside my bailiwick in the sense that I do pure editorial. But one of the things that we have done very effectively with our paywall, which is very successful, there are very few organizations in North America that can offer a paywall successfully. Most of the metropolitan level news organizations have struggled, but the niche and influential publications have been able to achieve it. And that is to get a much better understanding of what works. So the data that you can take from that allows us to change our journalism so that we can adjust to what's both relevant, what is stickability in terms of people come back for more of, and what surprises us, the material people will come and get. We also have a metered paywall, so you do get 10 free articles before you have to get out your cash. And I think that is really interesting when you see why people purchase on the 11th or the 12th. The metered paywall as a 99 cents for an article or something, it's interesting. I think what's also interesting, and it's really for the revenue modeling to be done, is whether we can offer some help to people who are students and don't have as much money. What can we offer in content terms that would really give people the reason to buy the paper?
Great. All right, we've got another question from Patrick.
It's a logistical one via Periscope. Can the Globe be purchased and viewed internationally?
Can the Globe be purchased and viewed internationally?
Yeah, we don't offer the paper internationally as far as I know, but digitally for sure, yeah.
We have a Globe to Go app, which you can look through today's paper, so it's more of like the printed product. And then, of course, we've got the Globe and Mail website, and you can follow us on Twitter, download our app.
Do you want another question?
Sure. Love another question.
U.S. presidential race. What do you think of Donald Trump entering the race?
What does David think about Donald Trump entering the U.S. presidential race?
I'm envious of his hairline. Beyond that, I think the challenge where we have the Canadian election and we have three main leaders, the Green Party obviously running, I think in all ridings as well. The challenge for the United States is I think they're up to 16 or 17 for the debate of the GOP. I think what we want to hear, the media's role is to distill the information, but there is such a cacophony of dysfunction among the various people spending so much time and money trying to differentiate themselves when they're in part of the wider same family. It's terribly difficult to figure where the true line's going to come. So until the nomination process is out of the way, and whether we know we're dealing with another Bush-Clinton, it's anyone's game.
It's anyone's game. So if you're just joining us,
you heard it here
first. If you're just joining us, we've got David Walmsley, the Globe's editor-in-chief, and you can ask him anything at all, and we'll fire his way. Oh, I'm Amberly McAteer. I'm a social media editor here at the Globe, as well as I run the Canada Q&A series, which is reader questions and Globe answers. Anybody? Nothing? I can move along.
Sure.
I can do it.
Why don't you do a question and then I'll see what
Okay.
Periscope says.
So we are wondering about our Canada Day plans. Every year we have some pretty cool journalism celebrating our nation, and wondered what it is that we've got up our sleeves for Wednesday.
You're going to have to tune in on Wednesday. I can't give all the secrets away. One of the interesting things that the digital world has taught us is that you don't need I suppose it's almost a comfort blanket in terms of the peg of a day to go with something. I'm very aware that a lot of the coverage we do is pretty grim, and we want to take those moments where a Canada Day celebrates the country and the vastness of it. But I think as well there are moments where you can take that instruction from a Canada Day and you can actually make it play over the entire summer or through an entire year. So what I've got the team doing is really looking at some opportunities where we can tell the uplifting. And that doesn't mean it's boosterism. It's instead taking challenges or some of the great moments in the Canadian life and asking ourselves where it goes from here, challenging the future. Instead of always looking back and being retroactive, instead saying, here are individuals. The Saturday paper was a good example where the content right across the board and the great photo essay digitally showed the opportunity of what Canada can become if you're a family coming from Afghanistan and where you can go.
I've got one relating to that. What's your favourite thing about living in Canada?
So we've got a question from our Periscope viewers. What's your favorite thing about living in Canada?
There's a couple. One of them's the Four Seasons. The other one is that I think, when one travels around the world, you come back to Canada and you realize we have it pretty good. And I think that's something that I need to remind people of. Obviously, having grown up on the north coast of Ireland for my schooling years, and then made Canada my home as an adult, it's a choice. And I think I have an immigrant's eye to the country. I see the richness of it in terms of the people, in terms of the resources, in terms of its potential. And it's nice for me because it's a conscious choice to be here. It's not that I was born here, so kind of randomly ended up here. I wanted to be here. I want to be here. I just love it.
We've got another question.
Yep, another somewhat biographical question. Did you always want to work in journalism?
So did you always want to work in journalism?
Yep. There's photographs of me aged 2 years old reading the paper upside down because I probably couldn't read. It was always what I was going to be. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
Wow. So one of the things we wanted to do today was sort of that first question is what do you do every day, but also what are the cool things in your office? This is a pretty special place, and people wanted to see your office space. So if you want to take them on a tour.
By all means.
And Amberly, you have 10% battery left.
I have 10% battery life, but Periscope, help me out here. That's totally fine. 10%.
there's
Could last all day.
There's a slight, I take this, yeah. There's a slight masochistic tendency to my job, and that is you're only as good, really, as your last story. So I intentionally had a blank wall when I started, and you have to build it. So what we have at the moment is this is the Michener award we won last week, 10 days ago, for the work on thalidomide. So I had that front page, which was the unanimous parliamentary vote on behalf of the survivors framed, and the Michener certificate beside it. Over on the back wall, rather eccentrically, I have old Globe and Mail Christmas covers, which I have done because I need to get more prized work in the modern day to push those off. So I've challenged myself with that. So they're dating back many, many decades. You can see those. I have a rather wan-looking shirt and tie collection. No shirts, but I've got the ties just in case I'm feeling that I should dress up a little bit more. I don't know. You can have a discussion about the sartorial elegance. Over here, I'll let you in on a top secret. Here are a series of books, various awards. We won an award out of Red Deer just a couple of weeks ago on our public school education work. And down here is a potential redesign of some work that we do that we haven't decided what to do with yet. So you can take a look at that and discuss it. Competitors. I have cleared off the desk a little bit to keep the state secret, but there's always an influx of paperwork. People, you'll see the seating area so that there's opportunities for 8, 10, 12, 15 people to crush in here, or for just one or two to have discussions. But I like the bare bones approach. I think that forces me each and every day to come in and try and get a better wall covered with more accolades than each and every day. So that's the philosophy behind the bareness of it all. And then it looks out onto the newsroom. So we have a whole range of teams of the news, sports, comment are all out here. Report on business, comment. You really get a sense. Can we peek out? There we go. It's not daylight. I peek out. I am awake when I'm in here. It's there's not much daylight, but we're moving into a new office, which I think is very exciting. People talked about the future of the Globe. We're moving into a new office late next year, and that's going to give natural light to virtually everyone, which I think is going to be just so fabulous, right? For anyone who works in an office without natural light, you see the difference. It's going to be great. So we'll be on. We're currently the west side of Union Station in the centre of Toronto, and we'll move to the east side of Union Station, which will be a wonderful opportunity.
It's coming up to 11.
All right. So that about wraps it up. Any last questions? Any lots of hearts? Lots of hearts on our Periscope? Great. Wonderful.
Bye.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the
David, it's been
opportunity.
great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.